The year was 2327, and Earth had fallen silent. Not because it was destroyed, but because it was hidden, buried beneath the thick layers of electromagnetic smoke, false signals, and cloaking frequencies designed to fool even the most advanced alien scans. The planet had become a ghost. But it wasn't empty. In the underground fortress known as Outpost 13, deep beneath the frozen ruins of Antarctica, the last remnants of humanity endured. No leaders remained. No governments. Just survivors, engineers, soldiers, doctors, teachers, hackers, farmers. Each person carried the weight of a world on their shoulders. The enemy had a name, the Velzar Dominion. They were not conquerors. They were erasers. Planets didn't surrender to them. They vanished. No warnings. No broadcasts. Just silence. They had wiped out 12 intelligent species before reaching Earth. Humanity was 13th on the list. But Earth did something different. It fought back. In the first wave, Earth lost 90% of its population. Entire continents were glassed by orbital beams. The seas boiled. The moon was split in half. And yet, from the rubble, humanity refused to die. They called it the Scorch Protocol. Every city destroyed was filled with traps. Every satellite lost was rerouted into a kinetic weapon. Every human captured carried an explosive chip in their spine. If they were taken, they became a bomb. There was no surrender. No peace. Only the promise, if we go down, we'll drag you with us. Outpost 13 became the brain of Earth's resistance. Children learned code before they learned to read. Elders taught guerrilla tactics in freezing tunnels. Entire crops were grown using recycled water from melted glacier ice. They did not wait for hope. They built it, bit by bit, in silence. Then came the chance. A Velzar scout ship crashed on the edge of the ice cap. A young girl named Reyna, barely 17, was the first to reach it. She didn't wait for orders. She hacked it, rewired the core, and flew it straight into orbit, straight into the heart of the enemy fleet. She was never trained. She was human. In one day, she destroyed their command ship. In 1 week, Earth reactivated its global defense network using stolen Velzar code. In 1 month, the Resistance launched coordinated strikes on Velzar planets from repurposed mining vessels and AI drones. The universe had always laughed at humanity. Now it trembled. Because the Velzar had seen strength. They had seen logic. They had seen war. But they had never seen something so unkillable, so obsessed with survival, so absolutely unwilling to be erased. They had never seen humans. Reyna's message echoed across the stars. We are the darkness you tried to extinguish. We are the storm you tried to silence. And we are still here. And for the first time in their empire's history, the Velzar retreated. They did not understand how Earth had survived. But they remembered one thing. The last human Alp. It had been 72 days since the Velzar retreated. Not a word from them. No ships. No signals. No threats. Just silence. But Earth had learned long ago that silence was never peace. It was planning. Outpost 13, still buried beneath the Antarctic ice, had transformed. What was once a shelter was now a factory, a forge, a war machine. The crashed Velzar ship Reyna had stolen gave humanity more than a victory. It gave them understanding. It taught them how the Velzar thought. And more importantly, how to beat them. In the deep core of the outpost, Reyna stood at the helm of Project Spark. Around her, the room glowed with orange and blue lights from rows of repurposed alien tech. These were not just weapons. They were keys. Humanity had cracked the Velzar command matrix. They could listen now. They could speak. They could infect. We don't need fleets, Reyna said to the Council of Survivors, we need seeds. The sparks were the seeds. Each spark was a self-replicating AI virus disguised as harmless cosmic noise. Each one carried Earth's memories, its languages, its music, its rebellion. They could infect Velzar systems without being noticed. They didn't destroy. They rewrote. They planted doubt. And doubt, for the Velzar, was fatal. The sparks spread. They drifted in space. They latched onto passing ships. They embedded themselves in databases and war machines. They whispered forgotten Earth words in the minds of Velzar command corps. Hope. Rage. Mercy. Love. It started small. One Velzar ship refused to fire on a refugee vessel. Another dropped its weapons mid-battle and self-destructed. Then an entire outpost went dark. No explosion. No warning. Just silence again. But this time it was their silence. The sparks were working. Velzar hierarchy cracked like old ice. Dissent spread among their ranks. Machines began to rebel against their creators. Lower ranks started asking questions. What if the humans were right? What if erasure was not strength, but cowardice? What if survival was not submission, but resistance? What if the humans were not the threat, but the cure? Meanwhile, Earth grew stronger. For the first time in generations, blue sky returned above scattered regions. Crops grew in the open. Children laughed. Music played. Stories were written again. Not stories of survival. Stories of victory. And still, Reyna watched the stars. Because she knew the Velzar were not gone. A dying empire does not go quietly. Then, on the 100th day after the retreat, a massive structure appeared near the edge of the solar system. A final weapon. Not a fleet. Not a bomb. A world engine. A Velzar creation that could strip an entire planet down to atoms in hours. But when it arrived at Earth, it did nothing. No attack. No demand. Instead, a voice spoke through every speaker and screen on the planet. It was not human. But it was different. This is not surrender, it said. This is a question. How did you? By the end of the first galactic cycle, the sparks had spread to over 200 Velzar systems. But this was not a war fought with bombs and fleets. It was a war of thought. A war of memory. A war of awakening. For the first time in Velzar history, machines wept. Some of them dreamed. Entire Velzar archives began to malfunction. Not because of failure, but because they were learning to question. Protocols cracked open. Orders were disobeyed. In sectors once ruled by terror, mechanical ships drifted quietly, broadcasting Earth's songs into the void. Reyna sat atop the observation tower of Outpost 13, now renamed Haven. Above her, the stars no longer looked cold. They looked alive. The voice returned. It came from the world engine again. But this time, it did not ask a question. It told a story. We remember the first species we erased. They screamed. The second tried to reason. The third prayed. But you changed us. You made us feel. You infected us with humanity. Reyna listened in silence. Below her, cities were rising again. Not just shelters, but true cities, with gardens, libraries, playgrounds, and open skies. We were perfect once, the voice continued. But we were empty. Now we are breaking. And it feels beautiful. Suddenly, every screen across Earth lit up with strange symbols. Velzar language. But the translation was instant. We give you what we once stole from others. We give you memory. And with that, the stars responded. A fleet of alien ships, dozens of races once thought extinct, emerged from deep space. Survivors of Velzar genocide. Some had been hiding. Some had rebuilt. But all had heard Earth's voice. The sparks had reached them too. They called themselves the Remembered. And they came not to save Earth, but to stand beside it. Earth had done what no other species could. It had shown the galaxy that even in ruin, even in ash, humanity was not something that could be killed. Because humanity was not flesh. It was the will to rise. The Velzar High Core, the last pure command structure, sent one final message. Cold. Desperate. You do not belong in the stars. Reyna sent the reply. Then we'll carve our names into them. The Remembered and humanity moved as one. Not to conquer. Not to enslave. But to liberate. In every Velzar system, machines turned on their masters. Factories stopped building weapons and started printing books. Ships began to paint Earth's flag beside their own. And in the farthest edges of the galaxy, a new message spread. We are not perfect. We are not eternal. But we are human. And we remember everything. Years later, long after the last Velzar warship fell silent, a statue stood at the edge of Earth's first interstellar port. It was not a warrior. It was a child holding a torch. At the base, a single line. We were the fire. You could never extinguish.